Welcome to the On a Mission Mojo podcast, where I have the pleasure of interviewing impact-driven founders, entrepreneurs, authors, and business experts who are actively working to create a positive difference in our world. I'm your host, Lori Young, a branding specialist, certified master marketer, and a passionate advocate for brands that possess heart, soul, and an unwavering commitment to drive change for humanity. It takes grit, a visionary mindset, and an abundance of mojo to navigate this journey. And the stories I share will undoubtedly ignite your passion. If you're seeking an infusion of inspiration, motivation, and valuable insights to amplify your impact, let's dive right in. Welcome to episode 16 of On a Mission Mojo podcast. So excited to be here today. We have a different kind of guest with us today, someone really fun and doing some really cool things in the world. So I want to introduce to you Mary Ann Tooker. She is the proud owner of Daisy Bella, which is a company dedicated to making a positive impact through her unique blend of fashion and charitable endeavors. The mission is not only to create beautiful garments, but also to contribute meaningfully to the betterment of others. So I'm talking to, people with I don't know, missions, like mindset kind of things or other types of things. So when I met you online, it was like, oh, she does clothing. How fun. So why don't we just share with the listeners, just a little bit about your mission in this world.
Okay. Thanks for having me, Lori, first. And I started Daisy Bella because I wanted to do a company. I've been a manufacturer, retailer for many years. I don't give the years out.
Okay.
Because I pretend I'm still 25.
There you go.
So I wanted to start something that did what I did best as a merchant designer, but I wanted to have a reason, a mission, and it was to give back to women, to all kinds of women. It doesn't matter what, but basically helping people that need the help. And
Sure.
I would go from young to medium age to older age. It didn't matter. But the garments also had to speak to that as well.
Okay.
And so I wanted something that had a voice and also that did good, and be proud of what it is. And
right.
That was the key. And you know what? It's a very funny thing because we're in an industry that the fashion industry is, a trendy thing. And so this Be Kind is one of my shirts. And it's so funny. I say to people, you will look good, but you will do even better. So to me, that's people see garments. I don't. I see this is a way that I can help someone else. Someone who just made to be listened. Or I have sent girls to camp when their families can't afford it. This shirt does so much more than look good. So that's where and the company called Daisy Bella is the reason for it. The daisy's just as beautiful as any other flower. So it's kind of like we'll get into, I'm sure, the history, but the company represents so much more than just a garment. It's about the daisy's just as beautiful as the rose. The daisy's just as beautiful as the hydrangea. We are enough in who we are. And that's what the mission is. So when you put on your clothes, it's like a note to yourself. You are enough. Be kind. To simple words that really mean a lot. And it's things that we forgot. So it really is about being cool, but also doing good.
Awesome. I love it. And I'm always attracted to inspirational messages. You can see, I can kind of tilt my wall there. You can see my whole entire office wall is about inspirational messages. And, people, when I'm on meetings, with people, they see that and they're like, oh, how cool, and kind of like what you're saying, just walking around in the world with a sweatshirt or a t-shirt or something on, people read it. People read clothing all the time.
Absolutely.
And if your clothing is saying something like be kind, or I'm not sure what other messages you might have, but it's like you're planting a seed, right? Just oh yeah, be kind. And some people, may not like pay much attention to it, but others, it could be just something that they
Absolutely.
needed, right?
And you know what? It also comes back to how confident are you in yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Are we followers or are we a leader?
Right.
And so when the person who's wearing this has to be, she could be both, because they may not feel like, oh, I want to wear be kind or I want to wear be you. But when you feel self confident about yourself,
Mm-hmm.
it's okay. You know what? People forget that we are our superpower.
Right.
There's nobody else that's going to be you. You
Exactly.
are it.
Yes.
So flaunt it. Let everybody know. God created us the way we're supposed to be.
Right. Yeah. So let's talk about, I guess, how, like, kind of like your background and like how you like came to starting like Daisy Bella. Like, what was kind of the catalyst for you?
I've been in the industry for many, many years.
Okay.
I was probably back the day when there were department store buyers.
Mm-hmm.
And I went from college into fashion merchandising. Just to give you a little bit about me.
Okay.
Who I am. I am an Italian from my father. Obviously, my parents are Italian.
Okay.
My sister went into the medical field when she went into college. And so my father thought I should do the same thing.
Okay.
Until I graduated, I went in as medical technology and I graduated as a fashion merchandiser. So he was mortified. He was like, oh my God. Back then, and now I'm going back in the 70s, people didn't understand what the industry was about. I sent my daughter to college to be a salesperson or to do whatever. They didn't understand buying.
Right.
But fast forward, I became a department store buyer. And I was always intrigued what made people buy what they buy.
Right.
What was it? And so I then started my journey as a buyer and worked for department stores, specialty stores for many, many years. And then the last 10 years, I became a manufacturer for a company, and I ran a division of knits. And I would make knits for many people, BCBG, Kohl's, Rue 21, Charlotte Russe, companies that are around and some companies that are not.
Okay.
So I would run the division of these knits. And so that's always been in my blood, merchandise design. Fast forward, and now the pandemic comes.
Mm-hmm.
And things start closing and doing whatever. And I said to my husband, you know what? I'm going to do something in my world, but it has to have a meaning. I want to be able to do something. And, some people look at me to say, at this stage of your life, you want to do this. And I was like, again, there's 25 in here.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm like, really? And I did, and so now I did something where I started an online business. And as you know, Lori, before we even started, I'm not technical at all. So I have a website and I am learning. But through my career, I've always been a mentor to certain colleges.
Okay.
And so I've been that. And so I would remember when I would say to people, you know what? You can do anything you want. You just have to set your mind to it. And so also Daisy Bella, I should back up a little bit. Because the real reason too why I know what people struggle through, when I graduated, I did an internship.
Okay.
And a woman said to me, Marianne, you're very nice, but I'm not quite sure you have tough enough skin to be in the fashion industry. And I was a 20-something-year-old from a small town in Connecticut. And I was like, excuse me?
Right.
And I was taken. But
Mm-hmm.
you know what? Retrospect, as an adult looking back, I don't know, maybe she did me a favor because the Italian in me said, okay, I'm going to prove you wrong. And
Uh-huh.
I did. And
Okay.
so I've had a very successful career.
Sure.
Was she the seed that did it? But it also let me know that I want to make sure through my career that people never felt that they were not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what that message for me at that time was. Why were you saying it? Because I didn't have tough skin? Was I not good enough? So as a 20-year-old,
Mm-hmm.
and now, you say that. So that really became so important to me, mentoring girls, to let them know you are as good as you are.
Right.
And that, you know what? Your first time around may not be good, but that's okay. Because
Mm-hmm.
it's not how many times we fail, it's about how many times we get up.
Right.
That's the win, is that we got up and we tried. And I tell everybody, Daisy Bella has struggles. Trust me. I'm
Mm-hmm.
in a very busy world with lots of deep pockets. I'm a solo person.
Sure.
But I can tell you this, Daisy Bella will be around because it doesn't matter because I can taste it. And
Yeah.
I'm not stopping until I know one day it becomes a brand that people recognize.
Right. Right. Yeah. I love your story. It reminds me of just last night. I met a new person. I had my eyebrows done. It was a gift to myself, which was very fun. But the girl that did her name was Amber. I just really admired her. She was a teen mom. She had her son when she was 16, and she could have easily have been a statistic, right? I mean, it could have just derailed her, but she was a hustler, and she did not let anybody like stop her. She kind of just like stepping stone to stepping stone, like from one job to the next job, and just kept building. And eventually, she built her own business, and today she's running a business, in the beauty industry, which is, to me, is kind of similar, like fashion, beauty. It's all kind of,
Absolutely.
yeah, and
Absolutely.
it's in the beauty industry, and she has like 8 or 9 people that work for her. She's got a gorgeous studio, and I'm like, good for you, like, good for you. She is out there, and she's raised her children now, and she's a very successful entrepreneur. And it just kind of reminded me of like when you were told, at 20, like how you're just like, no, I'm not going to let that stop me. Like, I'm just going to keep going, and I'm going to show you that I can be a success.
Absolutely. And and also my era of when I grew up in this world, we back in the day in the department store, there were more men than women. And
Hmm.
so when I was part of May Company, I was on the buying team when you got out of college, blah, blah. And now
May was like, okay, what department stores did May own? Because I have a feeling my mom worked for them.
they own so many. There were May department stores. They owned G Fox. They owned couple that were in.
Did they own like Famous Bar?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Yeah, my mom worked mom worked for them. I knew the name May Company. So
Yes. And so along my career, I've learned great things from A Company,
hmm.
where one, I learned business and finance, and
Okay.
basically they tell you, and it's true to this day, it's all about the pie. The pie never changes. And it's about who gets a piece of it. So somebody's going to get that pie's now, even though business is bad, the
Hmm.
pie never changes. So somebody's getting a piece of the pie.
Very
Do
true.
you? And so that I walked away with. And because I am not a yes person, and when you're in corporate, a lot of it was, and I was smart mouth, 20 something. And
Okay.
so I was then recruited into a specialty chain in New York City. And now I was like, oh my God, I'm in New York. But I learned there, and I worked with the greatest group of people, how to be a merchant.
Hmm.
And, my boss, may he rest in peace, without him, he taught me how to be a merchant. I traveled the world. I did all importing with him, and he said to me, and I'll never forget, he said, Marianne, when you think you know everything, you see that door? Leave, hit it, because that's when you stop. And to this day, and I tell everybody, I say, listen, I don't know everything, and I'm a sponge, and I'm going to learn, I'm going to squeeze out, and I'm going to learn more. Because when you stop learning, you become stagnant.
Yes.
And you become less of anything. So we all are sponges. So we
Yes.
all have something to learn. And I think it also keeps you humble. And that's the key, because I've, in our fashion industry, and that's why Daisy Bella, it gives you a persona of looks, So when I became a mentor for FIT, they would always call me because they would say, hey, Mayor, can you take more than one girl? Because they weren't the cool girls. The cool girls went to, back then the top companies, and, they did whatever back when Liz Claiborne was busy, and, all those kind of companies. And so I would take the girls that those companies didn't want, per se, because they were shy. They weren't the look. They weren't.
Right.
Whatever.
Right.
And so I used to say to them, because I had heart, and I said to them, they would come in shy and they would do whatever. And I said, listen, here's the difference. When you walk in here, you are going to really maybe not like me, but really like me at the end. Because those girls, they're going to go there and they're going to get coffee for people. They're going to cut swatches. They're not going to do, but you're going to learn. So you may mutter a little bit, but you are going to work every day, and you are going to be confident that you can do whatever you want. And it was so wonderful, because by the time they left, they were just kicking ass.
Right.
And they were like, I'm still friends with them, and I see their successes. That's what makes me. All the other stuff means nothing. That, to me, like on my tombstone, I said to my husband, that's what I want. I want people to know that I have helped them be who they are.
Yes.
And so that was what, so when I was kind of like getting ready and thinking about, I'm like, you know what? I've always, probably my whole life, have always been there. And now when I'm thinking about, just flourished to, that's what really makes me happy. I like buying and I like designing, but that has meaning.
Right. And so you've kind of weaved those two together, of just like wanting to make a difference, wanting to help people feel good about themselves with like your expertise and what you are good at.
Correct.
Yeah, I wanted to go ahead.
No, I know I have a good eye, and I know what feels right. It just, as I could, like people will say when we were talking, I'm a very free spirited. I'm not a corporate girl. It's all about feel. I have to feel it, and I have to have it from the heart. Even when I do a design, I do all the social media, and it's okay. I'm a little older, but mine has to be from the heart. If I don't talk from the heart, then I can't do it.
Right.
If I don't like what I'm doing, all the garments, I have to like them or I can't do it. So
right.
I know it's not trust me, in my career, I've sold ugly and ugly styles. That's just the way it goes. I have to feel there's some compassion to what I'm doing.
Sure.
So since I'm at the top, I could do whatever I want.
Absolutely. That's the greatest thing about being an entrepreneur, right?
Exactly.
I loved what you said about like when you were in the corporate world and that valuable lesson that you got from your boss at that particular time that you have just brought into like your life. And that is to never like stop learning. If you think you know everything, there's the door. I had a very similar experience. My corporate-y kind of beginnings in business and marketing and all of that was in the food industry. I worked for a specialty cheese and kind of deli meats food broker for like 14 years. And I had a mentor that was the head of the company, and he taught me so many fundamental things about business. And one of the biggest things that I took away from him was my customer service attitude. When I worked there, we did everything we possibly could to please the customer. Like, we would go out of our way. If we had to drive to Wisconsin to pick up a shipment of cheese, to bring it down to the grocery store, to be there on time, we would do it. And that got so ingrained in me. And that's the same kind of attitude that I have with my clients today. It's like, I will go to the wall for my clients to make sure that they are served. So I think, as entrepreneurs, some of us have started as just entrepreneurs, but a lot of us have come from the corporate space, right? And then have started, our business. And I think if we can think about, like, sometimes we're like, oh, I hated corporate, whatever. Okay, fine. But there's also some really good stuff that we got from that corporate world that we can now bring into our business.
Absolutely. I think we can bring something in from everywhere. It's so funny because when I was a manufacturer and I would do fittings with fit models and blah, I had a woman come in and we were chatting because I'm very spiritual and I like to meet, she was as well. And she said, Marianne, someone told me a long time ago, she said, in life, there are no dress rehearsals. And so she said, I now think about, because especially in our world, people get enthralled with themselves, who they work for, what they look like, what they wear, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, it goes back to human compassion about God created us equal, and we all are. And we all deserve the same treatment. It doesn't matter who we love, who we don't. It's just crazy. So, but it is. It's that, it's like there is no dress rehearsal. We only have one bite of the apple. Make sure it's good. Make sure it's kind. Make sure that, you want to be able to, what you do to somebody, that you want it back. So it's what goes around comes around. And so every experience I take, I just absorb it in, and I say to myself, you know what, there's no judgment here. Whoever, what makes the world go round. And I try to do that even when I'm working with organizations that I get to work one-on-one, where I do one homeless shelter, and, you meet people and you say to yourself, they were somebody's child.
Yeah.
Who maybe went off, whatever. Did they not have the family backing, whatever it was, but everybody needs somebody to know that they can lean on.
Yes.
And that's kind of what I try to do when I go there, to be able to just listen and make somebody feel good.
Yeah, absolutely. So since this is a video podcast, and for the people who are listening on audio only, I apologize. I will try to be, I guess, someone that can talk through the clothing. So why don't you show us some of your clothes? Because so there we have a gray sweatshirt that says "Be kind," right? And it's kind of says be kind, like all the way around, like in a circle.
Right. And tucked in, so it has that cool image.
And it looks super soft and comfy.
It is. It's, that's the whole other thing it's about comfy apparel. Feeling, it happens when you talk about corporate. I laugh because now I started Daisy Bella, and I live in jeans, t-shirts, and sweatshirts.
Right.
That's mine. So I had to go to a meeting. I had a black suit on, and I put one of my white Be Kind t-shirts underneath it.
Very cool.
It was like people got exactly what you said. We're reading my t. Oh, that's really cute. Blah, 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 blah. I'm like, well, you can get this too at Daisy Bella. And, but it's so funny because my attire has changed. But it's all about being comfortable. And
right.
It really fit in, especially after the pandemic, because most people
are working from home. Right.
So, and so basically all the messages, I do t-shirts, I do sweatshirts, I do hats. I've done candles, but my main thing is about empowering apparel.
Okay.
And so it would be, and their messages to this.
Okay, so here's a great t-shirt. I love the design. The magic begins here. I love that. That is beautiful.
And it starts with us.
Right.
If we don't believe in ourselves, no one else is going to. So
Absolutely.
everything I try to do is a reflection. It could be a note to yourself. It could be a reminder, be kind.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I do a hoodie. I brought the same. My first go around, when I first started Daisy Bella, it was all on BU. BU was very popular. And I had, when I would do an event, and my cousin, my niece would be with me, and she would say, and they call me Auntie Sis, just do be you, because that's all they want. Everything we have, they only want be you. And so now we've graduated to be kind. Here's another magic, and this is the hoodie.
Okay.
And one of the things that you don't get the beauty of through a video is that they are so soft.
Yeah, they looks very soft. Definitely look very, very soft. And not all sweatshirts or hoodies and stuff are like comfortable. Those look like, oh my gosh, let me just like snuggle up in them like a little blanket.
Yeah. And that is where my advantage of being a man, I made these things for many retailers.
Right.
Now I'm a small person, and I have to buy the blanks. So can I tell you, I scrutinize. You'll see, I buy every sample there is because I have to test it.
Right.
I feel it. I go through it. So I really make sure it's the quality that I would want.
Right.
And then for the holidays, I did do one that was a great conversational piece. It was favorite person.
Favorite person.
And it was so funny. I had people buy it because what it is, who is the favorite person?
Right. It's like a conversation starter.
Exactly. And so I had this woman who called me, and she said, I bought these for my daughter, but would you make some for my sons? So I did. And
okay.
So I can't give it to one without the other.
Right.
So, and that's what they started as, favorite person, because I didn't want to do favorite daughter, favorite whatever. It's
right.
Like, leave it open. But I will take t-shirts, I take sweatshirts, and I try to make a message that fits who Daisy Bella is.
Okay.
And so that's what I do, and I try to come up so it could be unique. Like I've done one with a big daisy on it.
Okay.
It was funny because I just did that one, and it did very, very well. And so somebody said, why didn't you do that sooner? I said, because people wanted words. And so now I'm into more of a boho feeling where I do a floral peace sign. I've done floral hearts. So it goes like being a buyer and a designer. You go with the trend, and you kind of keep coming out with something new but it's not so far off brand. Somebody asked me to do something with some kind of like derogatory verbiage because everybody does that. I'm like, that is not brand appropriate for Daisy.
Right. Right. Exactly. I love what you just said, because I think that this can be a really important message, important branding message for anyone who is running their business. And that is, you need to be listening to your community, listening to your clients and what they want, and be able to pivot and think outside the box and be creative and do something different and stay within brand, like you said.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. And here's the one thing, Lori, that I never will admit, but I'm admitting on camera. Is that triggers that confidence. My grandmother always said, when you hit 40, you're going to feel differently. You're going to have that aha moment. And you're going to feel like, I like who I am. And I think that is the confidence, the self-assuredness that comes into this, because you're not questioning yourself. You're not questioning. You're listening. I'm open. I'm always open to, and I don't call it criticism. I just call people's view
Yeah.
and their opinion.
Feedback.
But that comes being seasoned, because there are people who will get their backs up if you do not like that.
Right.
And, that's not what this is about.
Right. Right. So let's talk about, I guess, because I think this can be helpful for everyone. Let's talk about, like, what are some of the ways that you get visibility for your brand?
Very good question. That has been just challenging.
Okay.
And it especially in the beginning, again, when it was a pandemic and everything was online, it was me. And so I did hire some people to do things, and I did have a really great leader who said to me, he was a teacher of websites, and he said to me, Marianne, you can pay as many people as you want, but it kind of goes back to, you need to know. You need to have the knowledge of what it takes to run an online business, because otherwise you're never going to. And I was like, oh, are you kidding me? Back to, oh my God. So then I started to do some talking to myself, which I do a lot of that. And I'm like, you know what, Cassell Tucker, you need to put your money where your mouth is, because I would say that to somebody else. And so I then started diving in and taking classes and learning, and I said so I laugh. I say to my husband, okay, it takes me a little longer than the younger ones because I need to reread it a couple of times to absorb, but it will get there.
Right.
And so I then had to learn how to maneuver the website, online, social media. And then when things broke with the pandemic, I started doing events, and I'm really good with my mouth.
What's your mouth?
I'm really good. So in a live event, I'm great.
Okay.
I can talk to you because I love talking about Daisy Bella. I love about the garments, but I love what it does.
Right.
I can go on and on and on. So now I have to get that same message to the website through social media, and to get all that, but also know that you have to spend a lot of money to advertise in many places.
Yes.
So that has been, and it's slowly but surely getting there. It's nowhere near where it needs to be.
Right. I like, though, what you said, and I think this is really important to note for anyone out there who's running a mission-driven business. Your story behind your brand, your story about who you are and why you do what you do, is probably one of the best things that you can share for your brand visibility. I mean, we hear you talk about why this is so important to you. And it's like you said, it's so much more than the clothing. It's not like, oh, I'm here to make money with, this positive clothing. No, your heart is in it. And people need to see that, because today branding is like, and people are investing in brands that have heart and meaning, and they have values that they believe in. All of those things are so important for you to share in your social media, on your website, like in podcast interviews like this, at events. All of these things are so, so important for increasing your brand visibility.
It's so true.
Yeah.
And, like, one of the struggles, even being a small person, like, to me, I would love to be a Bombas. Buy a t-shirt, give a t-shirt. I do little things that I do in trying to be, here's the other factor. You want to talk about humbling? I've ran businesses, huge divisions for people, 500 million, 600 million, blah, 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 teams of people.
Right.
And here I am.
Mm-hmm.
And I am, and it's so funny. I have one screen printer who we found because he's eco-friendly, he's water-based, he has all these things that I would do as a manufacturer. And he would say to me, you know, Mary, you're only buying a little. You're not buying your 20, 30,000 units that you would do before. I understand. But, you know, one day I could be.
Yes.
And so you kind of like go with the flow on learning these things. But there are struggles because you can help people. And I try to find the right missions to what I feel. I am a Hallmark nerd. Now, to be honest, I love the Hallmark station.
Okay. Me too.
And one of the actresses who really is very much for fostering children and blah, 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 blah. And I watched one of her Instagrams, and she was working with Comfort Cases, which does foster, a big advocate for fostering.
Okay.
So, I have a big mouth. I called them. And listen, I know I'm a little person, but I think there's something I can do for you. And I can help young girls. I have T-shirts and blah, 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 blah. So I connected with them, and I was able to send 50 of my T-shirts to their young girls in their foster care. I said, I'm sorry I don't have boys. I'm just a girl company. But I've tried to, and that's what, one of the things that I do during the day besides product is, where do I fit in? It's kind of funny. I full circle. Where do I fit in where I can help? Because there are some big companies out there that are helping people.
Sure.
But I'm a little guy, but I want to be meaningful to them. And how can I be meaningful? So I have to do my due diligence to see what can I do for them, and how can Daisy Bella resonate with their community so that they will think she's a company that does good.
Yes.
Because this helps pay it forward.
Right.
This is what, when I send girls to camp, it's not, and camp's very expensive. And, so the garments have to be they pay it forward.
Right.
So,
yeah, so that's another great kind of what you were just talking about is another great way to get visibility is aligning yourself with like influencers. And yes, oftentimes you're going to have to, pay for those, especially if they're really big, but some not. Like go out on a limb and try. If you see someone that you feel is really aligned with your brand and you really feel like it could be a win-win like situation, like you did, you're like, okay, fine, let me just go. Yeah, I'm one person, but let me just go see, can I align with this person? Can we together make a difference? I think if we come with that attitude versus like, hey, can you please promote my clothing? Like that's not going to be as effective as how can we partner together for a positive difference, right? That is, you need to care about their cause just as much as they need to care about your cause. And together, that influencer relationship can be very fruitful, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's very rewarding. It's a lot. I do say to my husband all the time, I said, can I tell you I work harder now than I ever did in my career?
Of course.
And it's like, oh my God. But I love every moment of it because it just brings me joy. It brings me gratification. It's like when I put my head on the pillow, I know like maybe somebody who didn't have somebody to talk to, I was there for them as me or as Daisy Bell. It didn't matter, whoever, because I'm all in one. But like I've even done little Christmas parties for one women's shelter. And then there was a couple of the girls who had younger kids with them. And I'm like, oh my God, I had to go. And I'm like, I want to do these mommy and me things for them.
Mm.
And so I had to think on a dime. So I was taking my things and trying to shrink them. I was doing whatever. I made dresses for them. But, like those things, they sound so minor, but they're so magnified for the
Yeah.
person on the other side.
Yeah.
And those moments, I wish I could just bottle because
Yes.
that's what gives me
That's what
my mojo.
yeah, you keeps you going. So a question for you. Do you make baby clothing?
You know, for last year I did a mommy and me, and
Mm-hmm.
I did some mommy and me sets. And I took some of my own advice back then.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it was I was doing too much, and I
Okay.
heard one of my bosses in the back of my head saying to me, "Marianne, is that a what for?" And he would say, because when you were buying, you wanted to make sure it said something. And so down the road, it would definitely be an avenue. But for right now, I decided that that was too much for me to take on. Like, let
Sure.
me just master women's and
Yeah.
getting the name out and
Yes.
then add.
Yeah, because I just think about why not. I agree with you. Like it's like, okay, let's get this going. Let's get the momentum that we need for this and then build on it. But I just think about like babies and like what a perfect kind of person to start spreading these messages of kindness and being you, and like everyone loves babies, right? So it's like if your message is on a baby that says be kind, like, and they grow up with that kind of messaging, like it just makes a much better generation, right?
Absolutely. It's so funny because the be kind, I started as I was doing events, I would resonate. And next thing I know, I'm talking to teachers. And
Mm-hmm.
so now I become, because everybody would say, I'm teaching that in class, and they would buy that. I would have principals buying things. And so I'm like, isn't it so funny that we are teaching young kids to be kind when I know a lot of adults that need to learn it too?
Right.
And so, I became very embedded into the teacher community. So in the fall, I was doing a giveaway at once a month where if you knew a teacher, you nominated a teacher. And if you were part of my email list, you both would walk away with a gift certificate
Okay.
for Daisy Bella. But that whole be kind is so prevalent in there that I was getting orders from principals and schools and whatever. And it just,
Mm-hmm.
two little words.
Right.
So
Two little words. Absolutely. I have a saying on my wall over here that says, be you, Tifel. And that to me is just like a reminder. Just be you. Like, that was another one of your little sayings, just be you, right?
yes, it was my first one, and
Yeah.
that it still is. And again, two little words,
Yes.
powerful.
Mm-hmm.
You
Absolutely.
know,
So this has been awesome. I will definitely put the link to Daisy Bella in the show notes. So anyone who wants to go out and buy some of this comfy and positive clothing to spread these kind of messages in the world, please, please, please go get some of this. Get a t-shirt or a sweatshirt or something. I want to just end, and we've started to talk about this a little bit, but I want to just say, like, let's leave the audience with some good mojo. Tell us what your personal mojo is in the world, and like how you maintain it so you're always operating kind of at your best.
my personal mojo is exactly what we had talked about before. Is that I learned that my superpower is me,
Mm.
and that is who I am, and I don't want to be anybody else. And
Mm-hmm.
you know what? I like who I am, and I go with that. And I try to say, you know what? My mother also used to raise us and say,
Mm-hmm.
look at your own backyard. Don't look at the next one. Don't look at this. Don't judge yourself by
Yes.
others. And you can get tripped up that you can go down a rabbit hole.
Oh, yes.
So that's where I kind of like say to myself, okay, girl, it's about you and what you can do and what you can bring to somebody else. And when I say that, I feel good. And
I love it.
feel like I'm here on a message. Like I've done things where I've taken, even when my day of the heyday, when hurricane season was huge back in the 90s and Florida was devastation, I said to myself, I could do something. And I went to every manufacturer in New York City between accessories and clothing and whatever. And I got donations. I called the forwarder. We worked with the forwarder. They shipped it to our office. I shipped it on. And I tried to use my background to help somebody else.
Awesome.
So that's what keeps me going. So it's like, I'm always here to say, how can I serve somebody? That's what gives me my mojo.
All right. How can you serve? Yes. So I love that. I love to just close with that very, very, very powerful message, which is to be you. If you can just be you, you are going to be magical in this world, and your brand and whatever mission that you have going on in your life right now. If you can be you, you're one step ahead of a lot of people.
You won.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you so much, Marianne, for being here, and I'll see you on the internet.
Thank you so much for having me, Lori. It was a delight, and thank you again. I really do appreciate it.
Yes. That's a wrap on today's episode. Thank you for tuning in to the On a Mission Mojo podcast. Ready to dive into more incredible stories of people on a mission? Next week, I'll return with a fresh episode to ignite your passion for creating a better world. If you loved what you heard, be sure to subscribe, leave a glowing review, and spread the word to all your friends. Head over to onamissionbrands.com for more great episodes. Remember, the world needs your mojo, so go out there and let your brilliance shine.